Hi, I'm Krishnadeva Kesavan. I'm working as assistant lecturer at Sri Lanka Institute of Information Technology. So I thought of present my research work, which was done throughout the past year. So I'm going to share my slides to you. Then you can clearly see my work. And give me a second for that. So as you can clearly see on the screen, so our work is purely based on detecting reconnaissance, which targets e-commerce applications. So it's a security-related research. And if I go further, here you can see the current, yes, nowadays for any kind of problems, people seek online solutions. So ultimately, it's a web application. So yes, if we go for a web application kind of a solution, yes, we have many benefits. We have more benefits, but at the same time, there's a high risk of getting affected by threats. So there are loads of threats which targets e-commerce applications. So to protect from those threats, we have different perimeter devices with us. So earlier we were using firewalls. So after that, it's IDS, IPS. Now it's wireless application firewalls. So yes, these devices can do their best to detect almost every threats nowadays. But the question is, can they detect reconnaissance kind of attacks or reconnaissance? Can they detect reconnaissance attempts to those devices? So as you know, right, the reconnaissance attempts are the basics for or the first step for any kind of hacking activities. So scanning phase will be the first phase. So then the rest of the things will be taking place to hack a particular target. So yes, the WAF, that is wireless application firewalls, right? So they are totally based on uh, WAF application firewall. They are good at detecting the threats, basically targeting the web applications. So there are two ways of handling or sorry, detecting the threats. One is from the negative security approach. Another one is from the positive security approach. The negative security approach is basically we know the signatures for all kind of attacks, such as SQL injection, XML attacks, there's suspected botnets and tornadoes, and those kind of block spams. And for everything, we have a set of signatures. So first of all, we identify those threats, and we basically quantify them, and we get a signature, and we have a list of signatures known as a blacklist of signatures, and we'll be using those signatures to detect such an attack. So it's like a static kind of detection for web applications. And the next counterpart is the positive security. So positive security is all about we define the fine environment or the good environment. So anything apart from that, anything varying from that will be detected as an abnormal activity, and finally it will be considered as a malicious activity. So here in the positive security, we have a huge issue, that is we'll be ended up with many false positives at the beginning. So ultimately, the WAF is a combination of both positive and negative security detection. And if I summarize them, the negative security is all about a static based and a static based detection, and the positive security is anomaly based detection. So WAF is a combination of both. So by using WAF, so we can detect almost all the attacks, but it's not good for identifying reconnaissance attempt. So this was a log we were analyzing, and this log is purely based. The log is from a live server, and here you can clearly see, right? Actually, we had already these devices in the premise, right? So IDS, IPS, then finally the BAF. So ultimately, these attempts bypassed all the perimeter devices, and so here you can see the reconnaissance attempts basically searches for some sensitive areas of device or the web application. Here, for example, forum, webmail, and mail. These are some very important and sensitive sections of a web application. So the question is how it bypasses the IDS, right? That's because of IDSs are better in analyzing network traffic. Even they don't know the logic of web application, and by analyzing network traffic, they couldn't find any malicious kind of requests. So these requests are looks like normal requests. And second thing is, the next layer is wireless application firewall. So how it got through the wireless application firewall is the question. The answer for that question is yes, it's possible, because though wireless application firewalls are somewhat intelligent than IDS, they know the logic, I mean the web application logic, but specifically they search for the malicious keywords. So here a forum is not a malicious keyword, so ultimately the web force allows such attempts. So here, if you can clearly see, right, we have given an example and it was taken from the log we had. So the reconnaissance attempt here, the target of the person who is issuing such request is to disable the authentication mechanism. And I think the motivation behind this attack is to upload some content to the web server. So so the question is, yes, by still it's a huge risk of getting target for such reconnaissance attempt. So as a solution, yes, even we can introduce some rules at the WEF to detect such attacks. So, but creating a rule or a signature to detect such attempts is time consuming, and another drawback is where we need the human intervention or the human vigilance is needed to detect such reconnaissance attempts. So it's very difficult for us to come up with a signature to detect such reconnaissance attempt. So our research gap or the research objective is, right, yes, though the IDS, IPS, and WAF applications we have, in our premise, it's not enough because it couldn't identify a reconnaissance attempt. So reconnaissance attempt is as you know, is the first step for any kind of hacking activity. So if we can stop at the initial stage, we can reduce many consequences from those attacks. So our objective is first we collect the log from a live server for 1 year, and there we detected uh, many attempts, right, which bypasses the IDS and WEF. So what we have thought of is to come up with a module or plugin which can help wireless application file, that is WEF, to come up with a solution for the problem, that is for detecting reconnaissance attempt. The idea about the data or the log we were analyzing, and it's actually a requirement from the PCI DSS standard. So this is the current secret layer setup we have. So in the outer layer we have the firewall, then the IDS, and finally the web application firewall. And now you can understand it's not only enough. So we thought of adding a plugin to recognize the reconnaissance attempt. So this gives you more idea about the research and why we were focusing on the particular research. And here another important thing is we are targeting E framework, and E framework is one of the popular one of the popular PHP frameworks we have. So this gives you about this gives some idea about the popularity of E framework. So that's why we are developing. We thought of developing a plugin to the E framework based web applications. So these are the log information we were using. Here it gives you some summary about the analysis we did, and out of 10 requests, right, 5 requests are basically generating 404 errors. 404 error in the sense that is from invalid URL, and few of them are generating 200. 200 means they are valid URLs. So here is a summary from the it's an attack summary. So there you can see the different types of reconnaissance attempts, right? So the reconnaissance for CMS is high and it's getting increased day by day, and there are even some reconnaissance attempts named as, say, server setting change attempts, remote file inclusion attempts, number of attack sessions with same IP, and most of them are the attacks which has dynamic nature. Dynamic nature in the sense it changes its IP addresses time to time. So there are two types of reconnaissance, and one is with arbitrary guesses of URL. So they don't know the URL perfectly, but they guess the URL and attempt a reconnaissance. And the second thing is the indexing based reconnaissance attempts, which for the attacker who is conducting such attack, they have some idea about, and they or they specifically have the original URL, and these kind of reconnaissance attempts are very common, and it does not generate any 404 error. So it's very difficult for us to detect such an attempt also. So what we have done is to come up with a criteria to say whether it's a reconnaissance attempt or not. For that, first of all, what we do is we check whether it's an invalid URL, and if it's an invalid URL and we suspect it as a reconnaissance attempt, and if it's continuous, we say there are several invalid URL attempts several invalid requests based on same IP. So definitely we can say it's a reconnaissance attempt. And the second step is we check for any malicious keywords on the given request. And next, if the request has a dynamic nature in the sense, time to time the request changes its IP, and at that time we'll be looking at the URLs. Though the IPs are changing, but the URLs are the same, we still suspect it as a reconnaissance attempt. Then there's another check also, right, which always deals with the gap between two reconnaissance requests. Then if we have the repeated nature of such activities, right, we'll be we'll be considering it as a reconnaissance attempt. So if I try to emphasize the architecture, right, of our research, and this is the first phase is, as you know, the firewall ideas and virus application firewall, and they do their best to filter the traffic. So the filtered traffic will be passed to the web application framework. There we have a extension, right, that is to detect reconnaissance attempt. So this is how it works, right? First of all, the rest of the architecture shown in the screen is all about key framework, and we are targeting the error controller section. In the error controller section, here where or let's say if there is any invalid URLs, right? If there is any invalid URLs, there will be an error generator, that is 404 error. So if it's generating 404 error, right, we suspect, and based on the criteria I have already explained, and if those requests satisfy the criteria, we will be considering it as a malicious or reconnaissance attempt. So throughout the research, what we have found is right, 80% of the reconnaissance are based on arbitrary guesses, and only the few in the sense 20% of them are based on indexed URL, that is valid URLs. So that's why we thought of catering the problem caused by invalid URLs or arbitrary guessed URLs. So for simulation purposes and the testing purposes, we were using some tools from Linux, like that is blind elephant, which is used to generate the requests as we want, right? So we can change the requests and change and send it to the target in the sense of web application, where we have the protection mechanism, which is totally based on which is enhanced, sorry, which is enhanced by the plugin we developed. So as extension, what we have thought of is not to show the attackers error message to its invalid URL, but what we can do is we can redirect them to a honeypot. We can redirect them to a honeypot, and we can further analyze and try to identify the motivation, and then we can clearly identify the motivation of the attacker, and then we can come up with more tough solutions at the end. So these things are representing the results we got by using blind elephant. And this is another tool which we were using, the Buster in action. And so, and another good thing about plugin is which it does not require more resources. Memory usage also, by comparing to other solution, it's much low, and you can see the evidences for the thing I have mentioned now. So as a conclusion, right? So reconnaissance is a huge threat, and reconnaissance attempts are not identifiable by the current perimeter devices we have, such as WAF, IDS, IPS, though they use static and dynamic based analysis. It's impossible for them to detect because they're actually a valid. They don't have the request specifically does not contain any malicious keywords. At the same times, they look like normal requests. So the most of the reconnaissance attempts are based on arbitrary guessed URLs, which most of the time generate a 404 error. So in the E framework, if we target error controller section, and there we can find the requests which caused error message, and there we can identify the reconnaissance attempts. So if we analyze using the criteria I have already mentioned, then we can come up with a solution to mitigate the reconnaissance attempts in the future. So what, as you clearly see in the slide, right, at the last paragraph, it says detect recognition traffic with arbitrary guesses and create a blacklist. So what we ultimately do is, so based on the experience we have, we create a blacklist, and that blacklist will be used as a checkpoint for any kind of requests which will be there in the future. So it will be a continuous process. So we analyze the error logs and we create a blacklist, and that blacklist will be used to check up the future requests which target the device. So this particular slide explains about the future development of work where we thought of redirecting such reconnaissance attempts which we suspect to a honeypot, and that honeypot that particular activity or that particular method will be an added advantage for future work, because we can clearly detect the attacker's motivation. So that's what I thought of delivering about my research, and thank you for listening.